This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
But there's just no fucking way. There's no way we do a half hour. 45 minutes is the better goal. All right, Strohs, I'm kind of upset that you're recording this one without a camera because I'm worried about you for this podcast.
Is this camera not working either?
Oh, I thought you realized that when you said that we're going to have to just do this. No, I don't see you.
Oh, damn it.
And that's kind of unfortunate because I'm really worried about you in our third segment. And that's all I'm going to say. We'll get to that when we get to that. We're doing a weird reverse Oreo today. We're only talking about sports in the middle. It's May. There's not a lot going on here. John Morosi says Avila's seat's not even warm. He's got a year plus to figure out things with the Tigers. And I don't think John Morosi could have said that at a worst possible time. People are, in the last, month or two, like basically as this season's gotten underway, really getting on Avila. We're going to get to that in the middle. But like I said, Strohs went on vacation. We're going to get to why I'm worried about him at the end of the show. I kind of went on vacation this weekend. I don't know if it's really fair to call it that. So I had family in town. Oh, by the way, I just feel like I need to mention this before we get any further, Strohs. I have maintenance here right now. Oh, there you are. Cool. I'm glad I get to see you before the third segment. I have maintenance right here right now. So this could be a whole shit show. I might get derailed at some point. Hopefully not. But just kind of wanted to throw that warning out there. It could be a wild podcast.
My hope is one of those guys jump in the middle of this and we're like, hey, excuse me, sir. Are they
have somewhere to weigh in?
All kinds of crazy or what?
What was that?
Are they looking at you like you're crazy or what?
No, he's in a different room right now, okay. But maybe he will be later. So I had my dad and his girlfriend plus her kids kind of in town. Now they were in Galveston, which was about hour and a half drive for me, depending on traffic. But it's kind of like the best way I would describe it to someone, not from here. It's kind of like the nearest beach town, I guess. Okay. And it was a good time. Got away for a weekend. I haven't really done that since I moved here. But Strohs, my whole life, I've been told by, I don't entirely agree with this, but I've been told by some people that I can be a picky eater. And the one thing I never understood is why other people give a fuck. Why do now, if my eating, restrictions stop you from getting to have food you want, I guess I get that a little bit. But so for example, I'm not a huge seafood guy. And believe it or not, Galveston, Beach Town, we were going to a lot of seafood restaurants. I didn't feel like I was holding anybody back. I can always find something I'm going to eat. Maybe I don't love seafood, but I can find something there that's going to work for me. But on this trip, so my dad's girlfriend's kids, she has a 17-year-old daughter and I believe a 20-year-old son. And to be fair to them, I think everyone's pickier when you're younger. I'm sorry. Did you catch the age I said?
17. It's almost 18, right?
We're not. Gotcha. I'm very uncomfortable that you're asking that about children. Anyway.
I'm just trying to make you uncomfortable.
You know what, Strohs? I respect when you try to make me uncomfortable. My problem is that question doesn't just make me uncomfortable. You made everybody listeing uncomfortable.
The audience uncomfortable?
I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I don't think we have a ton of children listening. If we do, maybe they're okay with your questioning. But I think you're pushing the limit a little bit here, bud. Anyways, I learned why people don't like it when other people are picky eaters. And maybe it's not fair, but I was really excited because most of the time they spent here was in Galveston. And I was excited to take them out in Houston because the last day they stayed in Houston by the airport so they could just take off and leave the next morning. And it was the daughter doesn't want barbecue because she doesn't like barbecue. I was like, what do you mean you don't like barbecue? What is that? Do you like any meat? Yeah, I like chicken. I like turkey. It's okay, well, it's not what I would call barbecue, but they're gonna have that. Oh, she didn't really want barbecue, so we're not gonna do barbecue. We settle on Tex-Mex. She likes Taco Bell. He likes Taco Bell. Not the same. But they think they're gonna be cool with it. Those are the two things here, which we talked about before, right? It's barbecue and Tex-Mex.
Yep.
They can't find a damn thing on the menu that interests them. And they both settled on something, but it was just this menu is so giant and I'm excited to show you what this city does well for food. And you can't find a damn thing. And it drove me crazy. And it didn't affect me. We still got Tex-Mex. I still got to have what I wanted to have, but I was just excited to show them.
It's got to be so deflating too, right? So you're like, hey, welcome to the city where I'm living. We've got A, B, and C that are really, really cool. I can't wait to show you. And then they just kind of poo-pooed all of it.
I think that's what it is. I think that it's like, and in my circumstance, it's, a city that I live in now where like I'm excited to show what I can. But I think even if that's not the case, being a food guy, I can understand how somebody would be excited to show people anything food wise, even if it's the same city you grew up in and it's just friends that, from work or whatever, and you're excited to introduce them to something. I guess it like opened my eyes to, how frustrating that could be. Like, where are you on picky eaters? I know you well enough to know you will eat anything. And I don't know that because we've had that conversation. I just know you as a person.
Yeah. I don't really care. Like, so my whole thing basically in life, this is kind of how I operate. Go ahead, do you. As long as whatever you're doing doesn't affect me, I don't care. And look, prime example, right? Because we're about to talk, at the very end, we're going to talk about my trip.
Which I'm scared for.
I pissed Alyssa off so much because when we were on vacation, she was like, hey, can you, I see you looking over, you got to go talk to the maintenance guy?
I don't think so. I think we're good.
Okay, cool. He just made some weird eye contact with him. It was cool. So I pissed her off so much on vacation because all she wants me to do is have an opinion. See you, maintenance guy. Have a good one. All she wants me to do is
How
have
can you tell? The wave?
I heard him. All she wants me to do is have an opinion on where we go to eat. And honestly, we went to Colorado for her. Like, I've been to Colorado before, and I wanted to go again, but we'll get into why we went and then the third segment. Yeah, but okay. She wanted me just to have an opinion on where we went to eat, and I was like, I don't care. Like, I don't care. For 3 days straight, I really just wanted steak, and every time I told her I don't care. We ended up at some restaurant, and I wanted to get steak, and they didn't have it, and I was annoyed by it. But whatever, I settled on something else, and it was okay.
Yeah, we'll get into your stories there. Can we go into pizza for a moment? I know it's important. Like, if we don't go into pizza often enough, the podcast disbands itself. I think it's important though. I don't know if we've ever had this discussion on here. I don't consider myself to be a picky eater.
Mm-hmm.
And the pizza test is what I use to gauge if people agree with me or not.
Okay.
One of my favorite pizzas is just a plain ass cheese pizza. And I have a lot of friends who tell me that means I'm picky because plain cheese pizza is my favorite. But I will eat almost any topping on pizza. I am willing to eat most things. My choices and the choices I make often are more simple, like a cheese pizza, but I'm not the kind of person who won't eat things. You want to get a pepperoni pizza? Cool. You want to get a meat lover's pizza? Cool. You want to get a veggie pizza? Cool. Barbecue chicken? Cool. A supreme with meat and veggies. Like, the only thing I won't do olives. And I'll pick them off. You can order a pizza with olives, but I won't eat them. I won't do olives. I won't do anchovies. I really don't like mushrooms, but I'll power through them. I'm a lot more okay with mushrooms when they're on pizzas that are full, like a ton of stuff. But other than that, like, I'm cool with any kind of meat. I'm not a bacon guy, but I'm cool with it. I'm cool with most veggies. Like, it's just not my preferred pizza. And I'm that way with most foods. Pizza's just the easiest way to, I think, like, lay it out how I am with food.
I think the pizza test is arguably the greatest way to decide if somebody is a picky eater or not.
That's why I brought it up. So I know that you make fun of me for talking about pizza too much, but I think it was relevant here.
No, it's totally relevant. I think it is the greatest way to figure out if somebody's a picky eater or not. Because generally, I'll go to the bar with a couple of buddies and we'll split a pie. Okay? And we usually go back and forth for a quick minute, like, hey, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? Mind if we usually will get like a pub, which is actually a supreme pizza. We'll get the pub pizza, which comes with green peppers, onions. I think it's got bacon and pepperoni and probably something else on it.
I would eat that. Actually, It sounds good.
And everybody's eating it. I'm pretty much the same way as you, right? I won't eat anchovies. I don't like mushrooms. But again, if you get them, I'll power through for you. I do like black olives, so I don't have a problem with that. But really, truly, on a pizza, it comes down to anchovies and mushrooms. And I think you will find that the majority of people can do without either one of those.
I would agree with that.
I don't think there's a problem if you just get a cheese pizza. I don't think that makes you simple. I don't think that makes you picky. I think that makes you, to me, cheese pizza is almost like a blank canvas, right? So like you can do whatever you want with it. And I think it's a nice way to kind of like, everybody wants pizza, but nobody really knows what they want. Or not everybody can agree. Y'all can agree on cheese and sauce.
and like, I think what you do too is if that's where you end up, you just throw pepperonis on it. My big thing is I prefer cheese pizza to a pepperoni pizza. I don't think pepperoni makes pizza better. However, I don't mind it. It's fine. So I'm curious, and we'll move on in just a second. Does that make me picky in your mind?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I think if you're willing to eat things, like my big thing is you're going to have a very hard time finding a restaurant where there isn't a menu item I'm okay with. Maybe I won't get the thing that you want to show me, but I'm definitely going to have something I'm cool with. And I'm also willing to try whatever it is you want me to try. I'm just not necessarily willing to commit my whole dinner to that.
Mm-hmm. Before we move on, I do want to know, because
I'm not going to tell you if the 17-year-old was hot.
No, I don't want to know about that. That was a joke, and it was there to make you uncomfortable and everybody else uncomfortable. I do want to know, though, because we do talk about your dad a little bit. I think in passing we've talked maybe about his girlfriend. I don't think we've ever talked about the kids. Was it a good time, basically, with the family and having the family structure? Yeah,
it was nice. I think that it highlighted maybe a little bit more than I realized. And not like it surprised me, but I haven't spent time around 17 and 20-year-olds in a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it highlighted just how far away I am from that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in my mind, going on this trip, I was going to, like, because I don't know them well. I've had dinner with them a couple of times, but I don't know them well. And I think in my mind, there was going to be more of a, like, I connect with them kind of, like you would, like, with cousins or something like that. And it wasn't as much as I personally thought it might be. And like, it made sense. They're just way younger. Like, she was listening to a Mac Miller song that, I associate with my spring break of high school, which is hilarious because during my spring break of high school, she was 7.
Yep.
And her son was talking about learning coding in elementary school. And I was like, damn it. I remember, like, I was in elementary school when they put computers in the classrooms.
Yep.
When I started going to school, they didn't have computers in classrooms, and this motherfucker's learning how to program them in elementary school. So it definitely, I don't want to say made me feel old, but it just like highlighted the difference between us in age and just we live through different things.
It shows that there's a massive gap between where they are and where you are.
Even at 20. I think even 20, like to 27 was a huge gap.
Yep. Like, so my whole last year or so, year and a half, has basically been working with children and having to deal with their problems.
Mine was leisure, man. I couldn't imagine having to work with them. It'd be tough.
Dude, absolutely insane. Like, there are times where you just want to grab them and you just want to shake them and you just want to tell them.
Do you recognize, like, when you're working with them, do you see yourself at that age a little bit? Not that, like, they're like you, but just, like, the same thought processes?
Yep. No,
because like, I did. I saw stuff and I was like, I couldn't help but it was kind of funny in a way. Not like laughing at them, but just like, man, I'm young enough to understand why you think that way and remember thinking that way, but old enough to understand how silly it is.
Yep.
Like my dad's girlfriend was asking about like why I went to the school I went to and stuff like that, because her daughter's like making those decisions now. And I was like, to be honest with you, I think I was an 18-year-old idiot. I had just started a relationship. I didn't want to move far away from her. All my friends went to Oakland. And I say all my friends, like all my friends went to Oakland. It was just, I made it based on that. And here you have her 17-year-old daughter, like, I want to go to USC because I want to get away into a nice, warm, new place. And it's just like, yeah, you sound like a stupid 18-year-old.
Yep.
And I remember making those decisions very, very like vividly, but now I understand how stupid they were.
So like when I was working at my last job, and again, it was working with nothing but underage kids and maybe 20. Everybody's basically under 21. You'd have one or two people who maybe were 21, maybe 22. But there were a few where I would like line up with, and I'm like, dude, you remind me of me when I was that age. And like one of them, I ended up going out to dinner with a couple of them because I still stay in contact and check on my staff. or what used to be my staff. And I went out to dinner with a couple of them. And the one guy, his girlfriend's dad, can get him a job working as basically an electrician, heating and cooling apprentice. And he's got like no career aspirations whatsoever. He's just kind of floating in the wind. And he's like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to do that. And I'm like, why would you not do that? Like, you realize how much money you can make? And it's a great career. Like, what are you doing? It's like, I just try to talk to him and be like, hey, don't be a dummy. Because at some point, somebody has given you a hand or offered you a handout. And you've either been A, too proud, or B, too stupid to realize it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, don't be stupid.
I definitely get that at a younger age, that you don't see those kind of things. No, it was a different experience. I think that was really a first for me. And I don't know if you felt this too, saying because you went out with them sometimes. I kind of wanted to drink, but I didn't want to drink by myself. And drinking with my dad and his girlfriend is like not the same thing. And it was like, man, they're not freaking old enough to drink. Yep. Like, it's just, it sucked. It really did. Like, that part sucked. Like, so the son was very quiet. We talked some. I definitely learned as the trip went on, he was the kind of person where if you talked to him, he would talk to you. You just needed to facilitate the conversation. And obviously, like, that's not hard for me. She was very outgoing. But I don't really feel like I connected with either of them very much because they're, 10 years younger. And it was still fun. It was nice. It was cool. I'm glad I got to do it. But it was eye-opening in a way. Now, I'm so scared to get into segment 3. I want it on the record. I was like, Strohs, are you sure you want to talk about this? I have something lined up. It's not super common. We have 2 life topics to get into. We just happen to both be kind of on vacation at the same time. Mm-hmm. So we're going to get into that shortly. But Avila is here to stay, and maybe for a really long time. I might be blurring the lines of what John Morosi said a little bit, but if Avila's not on the hot seat right now, I'm not saying you fire him tomorrow, but if he's not on the hot seat right now, what does it take? I mean, real quickly, do you understand that you can judge Avila for like the fact that he was bad at his job before he became the general manager too? Like, he's always been in charge of prospects, right?
Yep.
Always. When is the last time the Tigers were good at that?
It's as a Tigers fan, it is incredibly frustrating. And look, when we were putting the show together, I thought this was a great topic because it's off the heels of a report from John Paul Morosi saying that Avila's not on the hot seat. You can expect him to be here for at least another year or two. There's no rush to get rid of him. And it's on the heels of Theo Epstein, who won championships with the Chicago Cubs and the Boston Red Sox, basically coming out saying, hey, I want to get back into baseball. And I think what this shows is that as an organization, Chris Ilitch is just asleep at the wheel, or he just doesn't care. I'm not 100% sure which one of those it is, but the fact that Avila gets to continue to go out and make decisions and do what he does for this team is, 1, frustrating, and 2, appalling. I'm not sure if you realize it, but on Wednesday, the centerpiece of the Justin Verlander trade, Franklin Perez, got released by the Detroit Tigers. He has to have surgery yet again on his
he was a top 5 prospect, like a year ago? For the Tigers.
Well, in this organization, he was one of the tops, but that tells you how bad the organization was. I think in Houston, he was a centerpiece. I think he was maybe top 7, maybe he was in their top 10. But it just goes to show you that Avila does struggle at what he does. I mean, like, I can't give you credit. I can't give you credit for drafting Casey Mize. I can't give you credit for drafting Spencer Torkelson.
That's the thing. Eventually, you should become relevant by accident.
Yeah. Me and you could draft those guys. My coffee mug could make those selections. I can't give you credit for that because you were lucky enough to have the worst team in all of Major League Baseball, and it was beating you in the face that you need to take this guy. I can't give you credit for that. His big thing was supposed to be international prospects. How many international prospects are on this team? How many guys from Venezuela, from Colombia, from Mexico are populating this roster and making an impact? I'll give you the answer. This many. Zero. There are zero. Fernando Tatis Jr., that's a guy that Avila should have been on the heels of and possibly could have been making a move before anybody else because that was his specialty. You don't have anybody here. His specialty doesn't even populate this roster, much less him being able to trade guys. You had some decent pieces. JD Martinez, Nick Castellanos. You traded those guys away for basically pennies on the dollar.
Well,
and you got nothing in return.
He has made a good move. And the funny thing is, I don't remember off the top of my head for sure. I want to say it was the Castellanos trade. Who brought in Candelario? Because Candelario has been a good trade.
Candelario was, I think that was part of the
Nick Castellanos, and there was a reliever who I can't remember involved in that trade off the top of my head. But that's the only move he's made well. It's kind of funny as you point out, no international prospects. Really nothing. I mean, there's nothing anywhere. The Tigers and the Pistons, and we're going to get into the Pistons next week, are almost in polar opposite situations right now. The Pistons are getting impressive play out of guys who you're not expecting to be stars. Guys you're drafting in the mid to late first round and stuff like that. Guys you're signing two-way contracts with. Those guys aren't expected to do anything. If you turn one of those guys into a low-end starter, high-end bench player, that's pretty successful. On the flip side, we're looking at the Tigers and saying the only way this team ever becomes relevant is if all of these number one picks end up doing what they're supposed to. Mm-hmm. And that's just to become relevant because you're not finding anybody worth anything anywhere else. You're not doing it through trades. They haven't spent money in free agency, but here's the thing. It's okay to find a steal in free agency. Once in a while, you're supposed to do that too. They're not doing it internationally. I'm really not necessarily saying Avila needs to be fired here today and now, but the hot seat should absolutely be on next year. What John Morosi said is he has a year plus, at least a year plus. If this team isn't able to start winning and competing next year, how many years do you get? They should, I want to say the over-under this year was in the mid to high 50s. Mm-hmm. I thought you should have been tracking at least to compete for 65, closing in on 70 wins this year. You should not be losing 100 games again.
And honestly, the way it's tracking right now, they're probably going to lose somewhere north of 107 games. And Candelario was part of the Justin Wilson, Alex Avila trade to the Chicago Cubs. That was who Candelario was brought here with. He was brought here with Isaac Paredes and cash considerations for Avila and Wilson. But no, you're right. There's absolutely zero reason that the seat shouldn't at least be warm. And according to John Paul Morosi, who is so dialed in with the Detroit Tigers, it's essentially like he is the fly in the room. He says that it's like wintertime. You've got the window open and the other side of the pillow is ice cold. And that's basically what he's sitting on right now. There is no reason that it should not be at least lukewarm or tepid for his seat when you aren't producing anything of relevance. Looking at this team, you wanted to give this team such a hard go.
I was more interested in this team 2-3 weeks in than I've been in years, but that's about as long as it lasted.
You wanted to be so dialed in. I think when we were talking earlier in the year before baseball started, I think you wanted to give them at least 50 to 75 games before they force you to turn it off.
I didn't think they'd be definitively the worst team in baseball at this point. That's embarrassing.
Dude, they forced you to turn it off roughly 25 games into the season. You're just and I don't blame you to be disconnected. I'm disconnected from this team.
They just won back-to-back games.
They're not good.
I want to say it was against Boston, last week? It was the first time they had won back-to-back games since sweeping Houston in mid-April. Yeah. They went basically a month without winning back-to-back games.
I mean, a prime example is the game they had against the Rays the other night, where they had a lead and basically Joe Jimenez goes out onto the mound, sets himself on fire, and they need a miraculous walk-off to win the game. It's like the team just isn't good. They don't have talent. Well, and you brought up the Pistons. The Pistons have executed the tank perfectly, right? You've got some pieces that you're excited about for the future, and you you were bad enough to where you put yourself in position to be relevant going into next year or into the draft to be able to make this team better. This team right now, with all of its pieces that it has, it's not interesting. I'm not interested in Casey Mize. I'm not interested in Tarek Skubal. I might be interested when Torkelson comes up, but we'll see how long that lasts. For a while, Badu was interesting, but I think you're kind of seeing him come back to his level, come back to his mean. You know, it's one of those things where you don't have you have Miguel Cabrera, who at this advanced stage in his career continuously breaks down. You can't count on him, and he is just an albatross killing this organization. Like it is rough to watch this team.
You brought up the fact that Theo Epstein is saying he wants back in at baseball.
Mm-hmm.
And part of why I wanted so bad to be in on this team this year, not to do anything special, but just to start winning games finally, is because they went out and got AJ Hinch. And I mean, I don't think there's any arguing he's a good manager. And it's frustrating to think you could plausibly pair Theo Epstein with AJ Hinch.
Oh my God.
I know you're kind of doing things backwards. You're firing Theo, and already having a coach in place for him. But I have to imagine he'd be fine with it.
Let me ask you this. AJ Hinch in baseball, arguably a top 5 manager?
I think widely considered. I wouldn't even say arguably. I'd say I think he's widely considered that.
Yeah. I think he's fantastic at what he does.
And so the thought of pairing those two together, it feels like you're staring at an opportunity to genuinely, you can't overstate things because, he's not here, but Epstein's done such an incredible job. How many executives in sports?
Dude, he went to 2 teams that were supposed to be cursed in one World Series.
How many executives in sports right now would you say have been more successful than Theo Epstein? Are there any?
Man.
I mean, Bill Belichick, if you want to give him credit as an executive.
Yeah. I would say Ken Holland in his prime with the Red.
Sure. My problem with that would be it was a different sport. So by different sport, I don't mean hockey versus baseball. I mean, the league was different.
Yes, for sure.
There was no, I guess baseball doesn't have a salary cap either, but he got the benefit of not dealing with the salary cap. They got to go out and spend money.
The thing too is I think he had a lot of guys making a lot of really good calls. I think Jim Nill's a really, really smart guy who's in Dallas right now.
Even if you throw in Ken Holland, I don't have a problem with that. That's fine. You're talking about one of the couple most successful executives in the history of sports, I would say. And getting to pair him with a guy who's widely considered the best manager, my gut says you're talking about building something special. I won't go as far as to say the Pistons are building something special right now, but the Pistons very clearly give us reason to be excited.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a hockey guy, but everyone tells me the Red Wings very clearly give us reason to be excited. I think you could be in a place where everybody but the Lions, and we both are happy with this Lions regime, but not on the same level as I am with the Pistons. I think you could be in a place where the Pistons, Red Wings, and Tigers are teams you all felt really good about going in deep into a rebuild.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think if you were to pair Theo Epstein with AJ Hinch, I think it would help reinvigorate this fan base. And if you're just marginally attentive to what goes on in baseball, you know who Theo Epstein is. And I think it gives you a little bit of excitement because he's a guy who's done it, and he's done it on teams that couldn't figure it out for the life of them. And he's a guy who can come in with a game plan. And I think he'd be okay with AJ Hinch as his coach.
I would have to imagine as well. Now, Strohs, all right, I'm going to let you take over. What the fuck happened? What did you do wrong? Because I know it was your fault.
I mean, I think part of it was my fault. Honestly, I probably should have just stayed in bed. It is probably what I should have did. So I almost broke up with my girlfriend on vacation.
And this guy wants to talk about it on a podcast.
I legitimately almost left her in the Rocky Mountains and just said, F it, we're done, and I'm through. So the whole reason we went to Colorado was for her girlfriend. Her girlfriend eloped, which generally means that you go away by yourself, but she eloped, but then wanted to have people around.
So much.
So basically it was a destination wedding, but you weren't at the wedding. Totally fucked up and weird. Whatever, cool. Whatever makes you happy. So she wanted to do a hike the day after her wedding. And you know me in nature. We've talked about this. I'm not really good with that.
Who is she?
Who is she?
Who wanted to go on the hike?
Her girlfriend. Her girlfriend who got married.
So this is like the whole group hike?
Yeah, so there was multiple people, which causes a problem later, and I'll explain. So, you already know me in nature. We don't really see eye to eye. Last time I went on a hike, it was when I went to Tequamanon Falls, and I got poison ivy or poison sumac all over my body, and that was brutal for about 10 days. And then I was attacked by mosquitoes, and that also was brutal for about 10 days. So I'm already kind of hesitant about this. And I'm like, I don't know if this is such a great idea. She's like, she's like, so Alyssa was like, you don't have to go. But I know what that means. Like, when they tell you don't have to go, it means you have to go. So I was like, all right, cool, I'll go. And
I don't agree with that, for the record.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. She's not your typical girl.
And I don't know her. I'm just telling you I don't think it's a general rule of thumb. Like, I think it depends on who you're talking about. Right.
And for her, when she tells you don't have to go, I now realize you don't have to go. There was a bit of a learning curve.
Okay, so sounds like a you problem, but continue.
Yeah. So this is supposed to be a moderate hike, a low to moderate hike. We're going through the Rocky Mountains, by the way. And a couple days prior, it had snowed. And it snowed pretty bad. So we're doing this moderate hike, which is supposed to be about I was told originally it was going to be 3 miles. It then, as we were on the hike, it slowly became 3.5 to 3.7 miles. We are walking through roughly 2 feet of snow. All right? 2 feet of freaking snow. I don't have shoes for this, by the way, because I don't hike. Most people don't have shoes for this because they don't hike. One person, the girl whose wedding was, she had shoes for this. She was the only one. 6 hours later, 6 hours later. This hike was supposed to be 2 hours at the most. It went on for 6 freaking hours. Mind you, when you're walking on a mountain and you've got snow everywhere, you tend to get warm because you're kind of close to the sun. And it's weird because it's cold enough for the snow to stay snow, but you're close enough to the sun where it's hot as hell. Mind you, when the sun hits off of all the snow, it reflects. I had the worst sunburn I've ever had. I was walking around.
God.
My arms felt like they had needles in them for 3 days. My neck was purple.
That's bad. That's like, do you go to a doctor for that?
Like, I don't know what you do for it.
I think you consider it if it's purple.
It was so damn bad. 6 hours we walked. And by the time, so I'm going to be honest with you, first 20 minutes, my back was bothering me a little bit too, but it got to a point where it was manageable, so it wasn't a problem. First 20 minutes sucked. There was probably the next hour and a half or so, I was like, this isn't too bad. This is kind of fun. I made friends with one of the guys. He was great. He was obviously out of shape, and I'll explain that to you in a minute. By the time we started to approach hour 3, my patience had started to wear really thin. When we got to hour 4, and they started adding distance and adding time to what we were doing, because in my head I was like, cool, 2 hours. I can make it 2 hours. This is not going to be a big deal. 3 miles? Yeah, I can do that. No big deal. All right. When it went from 3 miles in 2 hours to being, I don't know, we're now in hour 3 and we're nowhere close to where we need to be, I started to get a little bit pissed. And the girl whose wedding it was starts talking. And I really just want her to shut the fuck up. And she just starts talking. And here's the thing. I respect the mom of the group. I always have respect for the mom and the dad of the group. You always have one who's the mom, who's the dad. I respect them. I'm usually the dad of the group. She's the mom of the group. Respect that. But she's also the know-it-all of the group. And I don't respect that. Shut the fuck up. We've been walking now for 3 hours. We're nowhere close to where we need to be. You keep saying it's only about 3/4 of a mile this way. Only 3/4 of a mile this way. For 3 hours, I had to hear it's 3/4 of a mile this way. And we never, here's the kick in the nuts. We never got to where we were going. We never got to the top. We never made it be. We walked for 6 hours and never made it. Now, what made the walk even worse, and what probably added some time to all of this, was the fact that a lot of people who went on this walk were totally out of shape. And as you walk up into the mountains, the atmosphere gets thinner. It gets harder to breathe. Lots and lots of breaks. Going back to about hour 3, I have a low sugar. Okay. I'm reaching into the bag of snacks that Alyssa has, and I'm pissed. And I was like, I don't know why the fuck I'm doing this. I don't know why I'm here. This is stupid. I don't know why she's dating me. She loves this freaking shit. I hate this freaking shit. This is not going to work out. I need to break up with her ass right now, and I need to just go home. Fuck this. this is stupid. I don't want to do this. She should have just went out with Jamie. Jamie's is a friend of mine who had a thing for her for a while. And Jamie's a good looking dude. He likes nature. He likes walks. He likes hiking.
3 hours into this, you're grabbing a snack that she's packed, and you're thinking she should have dated my friend.
Yeah, shouldn't be dating me. F this. I don't need this shit. And I don't know why she's dealing with me. I don't want to be here right now. I was just in such a bad place. For roughly 4 hours of this walk, I was like, oh, I got podcast gold. We're going to talk about all this shit on the podcast.
I would have known if you guys broke up, I would have forced you to wait at least a week before deciding we were going to talk about it. Because it would have been way too soon for you to make that kind of a decision. I would not have let you do that quickly. You didn't break up, so all I had to do was check on you to make sure that it was the right decision. So what I'm hearing here, and tell me if I'm reading this wrong.
Dude, I was furious with her. I wanted to throw her off the cliff. I wanted to throw everybody off the cliff. I was mad as hell.
Right. But so before we started this, you said that it was some of your fault. What I'm hearing from this is that more than it being anybody's fault, this was your overreaction in a moment of being pissed. Not to say that you were overreacting being pissed. I'm not saying that at all. But where your mind went isn't really where you were. It's just where you were in that moment. That makes sense.
That's super accurate because this is the thing, right? This is what I know.
That's different. To me, that's not the same as nearly breaking up.
I was on the verge, B.
Were you going to do it there? And by there, I don't mean in Colorado. I mean on the hike.
Oh, I was going back and forth. I was like, do I do it now or do I wait until we're done with this shit? I don't know what to do. I just kept going back and forth in my head. That conversation went on for probably 45 minutes in my head.
I believe you. Everybody's had those times. Now, I don't think I'm as prone to anger. That's not where I go. I get frustrated. I get sad.
Pause. So I go directly to anger. And here's the thing. My nasty, she's never really seen my nasty. She's seen some of it come out on that walk. My nasty is awful. And I know it's awful. It is mean. It is cruel. It is brutal. And it is unrelenting. It is awful. I try to keep her away from it as much as possible because she's never really seen it. Some of it came out and I was very embarrassed that it came out, especially in front of her friends.
Stros, I'd have been see the difference because I would have hated it too. It would have been way too much for me, especially if I was expecting 2 and it turned into 6. But I'd have been out there I'm going to die. I'm not going to make it back. I don't have the energy. That's where I would have been.
There was a point on the way back where, so you're out there. We go out in the morning and it's cold enough to where the snow is still pretty firm. By the time hour 5 and 6 roll around, the sun's out and it is starting to melt the stuff down and it becomes slush. So what you used to walk on that was firm, you are now sinking into, and you're sinking into up to or past your knees. So you have to push yourself up and out of it. There was a point where I was legitimately 3/4 of a mile away from getting out of this godforsaken place. And I just sat there and I was like, I'm so tired. I don't want to move anymore. I'm done. I'm done. It was I got to that point where I was like, screw this shit. I don't want to do this anymore.
So what was the calm down?
It was off. What's up?
What was the calm down like? How did you get to a place where you recognize yeah, this is stupid. I'm not breaking up with her because of a walk that went too long. Because to be totally honest, now that we're on the outside of this, I'm missing where she did anything wrong.
Oh, she didn't do anything wrong.
Because before we started, you said it was partially your fault.
She made me go on the hike. That's where she went wrong. But she didn't really make me go on the hike. I chose to go on the hike. So yeah. I'm
not saying you did anything wrong.
She's in the clear.
I'm not saying you did anything wrong either.
I just really don't think she did anything wrong. I was going to break up with her after state of madness.
Yeah, no. It was just so what was the calm down like?
There came a point where she too got sick of all of it. And all of a sudden
I can see how that would help.
All of a sudden we went from being mortal enemies to oh hey, we're on the same side.
You're yeah, fuck this.
Yeah, pretty much. And the thing is, I was able to grab her and we were able to kind of get away from everybody and we could have a talk. And me knowing that she's seen it the same way I seen it, maybe not to the extreme that I seen it, but the fact that she was upset and she was like, this is not how it was supposed to go, made me feel like, all right, cool. So I totally overreacted, but she's upset about this too. So now we're on the same page, and that's good. So like that's what
I'm assuming you've had this conversation. Like you told her you were about to break up with her.
Oh yeah.
How did she react to that? She's like, we're laughing about it, so clearly it's okay.
I'm not sure if she's going to listen to this podcast. She was like, I'm assuming all this is going on the podcast. Hey, I was like, oh, you bet your ass it is. I could do a whole podcast on all of this.
Can you tell her if she doesn't listen that I didn't try to fight you. I didn't like try to tell you, no, we're not talking about it. But I did like make sure that you wanted to do this.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Here's the thing. She's got your phone number, right? She has your phone number. I tell her all the time, I was like, just text B. Like, whatever you want, just text B.
If she really doesn't want something to happen, then yeah, I would push back. I'm not trying to cause any trouble.
No, because here's the thing, right? So she's like, I should just tell B. I was like, just text B. Tell him. Tell him whatever you want. Like, I don't care. She was supposed to start that Twitter to debunk everything I said anyways. I told her before we sat down to record this, I was like, you better get your Twitter ready. Because I'm talking about all of it.
Well, I don't think, honestly, the story you told in this case to me sounds like, this is my recap. We'll wrap this up here shortly. My recap is you felt you had to do something that you didn't have to do. It went poorly.
So poorly.
Progressively got mad to the point that you were thinking irrationally and then realized, hey, I'm overreacting and everything settled down. She basically isn't a part of the story. in all reality, all she exists as is the person that you were maybe going to break up with. Like she's totally irrelevant to the story.
In my head, I was digging snow graves for everybody. Everybody was going to die. I was in this like just state of rapture. I was just insane and pissed. So mad. There was a point where one of the guys, the guy who I kind of made friends with, he ended up calling me out. He was like, Adam, you look like you're having a great time. I was like, it's super.
Oh,
freaking great.
I wouldn't handle that well.
And I wanted to pick a rock up and hit him in the face.
Well, I'd handle it better than that, but I wouldn't handle it well. Mm-hmm. It takes a lot for me to be mean. I would have been mean.
Oh, I was nasty.
Was it like,
this is what else pissed me off. This is what else pissed me off. So the know-it-all. So as me and Alyssa are kind of having this little back and forth, she's like, if you just want, you can just go home. You can just, just walk back. You can just, and I just looked at her, I was like, you know what? We're good. We're good. Like grown-ups are talking. Shut the fuck up. Nobody needs to hear you. Shh. Quiet. I was like, everything that you have said so far today has been wrong and a lie.
Can we?
So I don't need to hear you.
I'm not sure. Maybe we're going to get lost and die. I'm sorry. I can't trust you.
That's where I was, B. I was manic.
It happens. I mean, like maybe you were a little extreme, but it happens. I am not as worried about you as I was before we started recording.
Yeah, no, we ended up having the conversation and we ended up having a great dinner that night. Dinner was fantastic. And I'll be honest.
How many more days were you there after this?
We got there Wednesday. This was early Thursday morning into late Thursday afternoon. So Friday, Saturday, and then we came home Sunday morning. So
that sucks because that sunburn is it's a killer.
Dude, it hurt so bad. She was bad too. Like she had a horrible sunburn and like she tans really well, but like no, she was red like a lobster. It was no bueno. It was not good, buddy. But hey, we ended up going on a couple other hikes that were actually pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah. Red Rock was great.
That's surprising.
Red Rock, like, look, don't ever let anybody ever tell you that I am not a generous lover, okay? Red Rock was great.
I've never had that conversation with anybody, and I don't expect to.
I gave her a hike at Red Rock, and I was like, let's do it. And then we hiked, Sugarloaf Mountain. That was cool. And then we hiked to this waterfall. It wasn't really much of a hike.
If I had as bad of a sunburn as you said, I don't think I'd be willing to go on a hike the next day.
So
I don't think I'd be willing.
The next day was very, very cloudy. So in the morning, walking Sugarloaf was bad. It hurt. You could feel it. But that was a really short hike. It wasn't very long. It was only about an hour. But later on that afternoon, it was very, very cloudy. So you could get around it and you weren't too bad.
The last time I had a bad sunburn on a trip, I was literally like, I don't want to be in the sun, period. No. Like, I don't like,
it was rough.
I'm sorry. I know we're here to go to the beach, but like, I can't do it.
It was rough.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap up this one. Like I said, next week, I know we're going to get into some Pistons talk. Not sure what else. Hopefully no more almost breaking up